Hey guys, good afternoon. It is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It is great to be with you on Inspirations for Your Life. Today is Friday. It is the first Friday, everyone, of May. And hopefully things are starting to warm up just a little bit. Great to have you here. You know, our master topic for the entire week, in case you missed it, was overcoming skepticism. We're on series 4, and this is show 18. And the granular topic right now is helping others overcome skepticism, series 4, show 18, episode 7. And this is the grand finale of the master topic. And then, tomorrow we start off with a brand new one. Great to have everyone here. If you are a little parched or maybe a little hungry, I don't want you to definitely not be nourished during the show. So go ahead and head over to your kitchen, maybe get something to drink. Maybe it could be hot, maybe it could be cold, maybe something to eat, could be a snack, could be chocolate, could be fruit, whether it's healthy or not, tart, doesn't matter. Just go ahead and get that and hurry on back so we can kick off the show. Well, welcome everyone. I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, and you're tuned into Inspirations for Your Life. And so I'm not only a serial entrepreneur and a podcast host, but I'm also a podcast coach. And it is, ladies and gentlemen, my ultimate privilege and pleasure to be with everyone this fine Friday afternoon. Of course, if you missed this or any other episodes or any other content, feel free to visit believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations. All right, get that item from the kitchen and let's get this show kicked off. All right. So, in today's episode, I'm going to unlock a transformative topic: how to help people believe. Whether it's belief in themselves, a new idea, or the possibility of just change, belief is the fuel behind progress, creativity, and growth. There's no coincidence that believemeachieve.com is my slogan, right? Belief is everything, and it really can affect our success. Okay, I think that's important to understand, and that we embrace that. As I said, whether it's belief in themselves, a new idea, or the possibility of change, belief is the fuel behind progress. Fuel behind progress, and so and it also taps into our creativity, of course, our growth. But what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when someone resists, when they doubt, or even flat out refuse to engage? That's where you come in. As a leader, a mentor, a coach, or even a friend, your role is in helping others build belief, and it's pivotal. Okay. So I'm going to explore 10 actionable, that's right, 10 actionable and compassionate techniques that will not only empower you to move others from skepticism to hope, but also take them out from areas like fear to courage and from stagnation to action. So definitely stay tuned. Enjoy that beverage or that snack. And let's go ahead and nourish the rest of your body. All right, everyone. If you ever struggled to reach someone who seemed closed off, this episode is geared just for you. It's your step-by-step guide to building bridges, not walls. I think too many people install walls because that's what they were taught. They were taught that if you want to keep fear out, we'll just keep putting more bridges. And eventually, what you're going to do is you're going to alienate yourself and you're going to be all alone. And that's not a good thing to do. All right. So, number one, understanding skepticism. Before you can help someone believe, you must understand why they don't. Skepticism is not inherently bad. That's the first thing I want to say on the get go. It often stems from disappointments, fear, or even trauma. Maybe people have been hurt by broken promises or discourages by repeated failures. Their resistance might not be your idea, but to the pain associated with trying again, instead of arguing or correcting them, lean in with curiosity. Ask what's making you hesitant, or what's your experience been like with this before. When you take the time to understand someone's hesitation, you disarm defensiveness and begin a respectful set of open connection set of protocols. This step isn't just about them, it's about doing the emotional work to see beyond the resistance and into the human experience behind it. I think a lot of people forget that we're human, and people forget that change happens from the human point forward, right? Number two, Building trust. Trust is the cornerstone of belief. You can have the most compelling ideas or even the most ravish plans, but if someone doesn't trust you, they won't buy into anything you're saying or doing. See, that's the truth. Trust isn't built in these grand gestures that people do. It's built in consistency. It's saying what you do and are doing what you say. It's about owning your mistakes, accountability, honoring your promises, and showing up, especially when it's inconvenient. When people feel safe around you, they become more open to exploring what you're proposing. Trust also means respecting someone's pace and their boundaries. You don't need to force belief, you just need to create the space where it's possible. Show people they can count on you, and belief will naturally start to blossom. Now, don't hold them to the grind and say, gee, you have to believe me. You notice I never do that, right, guys? I just tell you that you can believe, and if you do, there's going to be a lot of benefits, but I never force anybody to believe anything. Number 3, encouraging dialogue, right? Back and forth. Not a monologue, not one-way conversation, but dialogue. I speak, you speak, we listen back and forth. A lecture can only go so far. Dialogue, on the other hand, creates a shared space of discovery. It invites the other people to be part of the process, not just the recipient of the message. Now, this means you ask questions not to persuade, but to understand. You listen without interrupting. Even when you disagree, you reflect on what you hear to show that your voice really matters. Encouraging dialogue also communicates humility, that you're not here to fix someone, but to journey with them. It makes people feel valued, and when people feel valued, they are more likely to believe that something new is possible. It's through the back and forth exchange that trust is slowly built and deepened, and minds then begin to slowly shift. They don't shift overnight. Number 4, providing evidence. Everybody wants evidence, right? Belief often needs proof, especially for those who are logical or data driven. But the kind of evidence that works best is relevant evidence. So you're not just presenting random facts or statistics, you're sharing stories, case studies, and relatable examples that tie into the person's experience or aspirations. Maybe it's a transformation story, right? Maybe. And it could be about someone like you, right? Or maybe it's another person, but maybe it's a before and an after scenario, an on hands demonstration, and a like, this is what happened after. Tailor your evidence to their learning style, whether that's auditory, visual, kinesthetic. Also, don't forget about emotional and analytical. Those are also important. Remember, belief doesn't come from information alone, it comes from resonance. When we show people not only what works, but why it could work for them, people begin to get curious and they're open to things more than they would be. Number 5, guys, validating doubts. Doubt is not the enemy of belief. I want to make that clear. Doubt is not the enemy of belief. It's part of its journey. When someone expresses hesitation, our first instinct is to jump in with positivity or correction. But if you ignore or dismiss their doubts for just a moment, okay, you send the message that their fears aren't valid. Instead, pause and say, I hear you, or that makes sense given what you've experienced. This doesn't mean you agree with them. Conclusion, it means you respect their process. By validating doubt, you reduce shame and resistance. You show them that being unsure is okay, even expected. And ironically, when people feel that their doubt is safe, they're more willing, ladies and gentlemen, to explore new beliefs without defensiveness. Number 6, inspiring small wins. Big goals can feel overwhelming, right? They can, especially to someone who already is uncertain. That's why small wins matter. They create tangible proof that progress is possible. When someone sees even a small result of a completed task, a moment of courage, a new habit, it builds confidence. Celebrate these wins no matter how minor they seem. Say, look what you just did, or that's a step forward. Momentum builds when people feel capable. These micro successes act like emotional deposits in their self belief bank account. I like to call it an EBA, an emotional bank account, which we've actually learned from Mr. Covey a long time ago. Over time, our small wins, okay, accumulate into big changes. And most importantly, they show that belief isn't something you arrive at, it's something you build. That's kind of like the notion where we say, are leaders born or made? And they're certainly not born. They are made through many hours of trial and tribulation and some failures. And they've learned how to rebuild and regroup each time. We've said this before, it's not whether you fall, it's the fact that you fall and you keep getting up. That's the most important thing. Promoting empathy. Empathy is the soul of connection with human beings. It's not just about understanding someone intellectually, it's about feeling with them. When you express empathy, you say, I may not have experience in this area like you have, but I see you. I hear you. I honor your story. This creates emotional safety, which is critical for belief to emerge. People need to know that their fears, hopes, and experiences are held with care. Empathy also dismantles power dynamics. It's not you leading them from above, it's you walking beside them, and often just knowing that they're not alone in the spark that reignites the belief. I think a lot of people want to believe. You probably remember Macy's, right? And in the history of what Macy's said, their catch is always, or I should say, their theme is always believe, right? Believe in Santa Claus, believe in the magic, believe in good people, believe in the spirit of the holidays, believe, right? My slogan is believe and you'll achieve, right? BelieveMeAchieve.com. But they want you to believe so you can experience the holiday magic, whether it's Hanukkah or whether it's Christmas. That's their whole thing about believe. And they make it almost like magical. Number 8, guys, patience and persistence. People rarely change overnight. In fact, they never do. Sometimes you'll plant a seed and see no sign of growth. Not today, not tomorrow, and maybe not even for weeks or maybe even months. But belief grows stronger because it actually gets way beneath the surface before it even blooms. That's why patience, ladies and gentlemen, is essential. Be willing to repeat yourself kindly. Be willing to wait while someone wrestles with what you've shared. Be willing, ladies and gentlemen, to stay when others have left. That's important, right? And through it all, persistence is the key. Keep showing up, keep encouraging, keep believing in them, even when they don't believe in themselves. Your quiet moments of being consistent and in presence for them can be the anchor that somehow transforms them and gives them what they need so they're able to, let's say, pass right through those uncertain moments. You've heard me say before that tough times never last, tough people always will. Tough times never last, tough people always will. Tough times never last, tough people always will. Number 9, avoiding over explanations. Sometimes in our effort to be helpful, we end up overwhelming others. Over explaining can be unintentionally a problem for others, as you come across as pressure when you don't mean to be that. You come off with a very high level of desperation or even condescension, which I know that's not what you're trying to do. Less can be more. Share just enough to invite curiosity, then pause. Let the other person ask for more. Let your words settle. Let the silence speak. And when you give people room to reflect instead of rushing to fill every gap, you respect their pace of processing. This creates trust and autonomy, 2 ingredients essential for genuine belief. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, belief often grows in the quiet moments between the words and not just from the words themselves. But as I said, between the words, I like to say that life happens between the breaths, right? Life happens between the heartbeats. Do you get excited about life? Number 10, living with a growth mindset. Helping someone adopt a growth mindset is one of the most powerful gifts you can ever give someone. A growth mindset is the belief that abilities can be developed, that failure is not final, and that every challenge is an opportunity in disguise. When people begin to see themselves as learners, not victims of fixed limitations, their entire identity begins to shift. And you can nurture this by modeling it, praising effort over outcome, and reminding others that setbacks are stepping stones, not hurdles. Encourage curiosity, not perfectionism. When people believe they can grow, they start to believe that anything is possible. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss, is that when we have a belief, we're not just changing our mind, but we're actually affecting ourselves chemically, right? Physically, of course, mentally. And so a change of state happens in our body. And this change of state is something that most people are like, well, I didn't know that happened. No, it happens so subtly. And it's this change that makes us so curious to want to go back and explore. That's why, gentlemen, I said explore. And exploring is a very wonderful thing. But I know, ladies and gentlemen, that it seems very, I know it seems daunting. I mean, I know that. And I think the reason it seems daunting is because maybe you're stuck and you just need help. But the reason you need help is because you just don't understand why things are a certain way. So it's good to ask that why question in life, guys. It's very, very good to ask that why question. That's what I want to tell you. So this is the part of the show, guys, and you know what I do here is I basically take all these points, all right, and what do I do with them? So that's a great question. I take all these points because they seem like words, right? Which they are. Basically, I give you this is what it is. I give you basically personal story lessons about each point that I covered. That's pretty powerful, right? And I know what you're saying. You're saying that this isn't possible, but I'm here to tell you that it is possible. We go from probable, very probable, of course, very possible. And when this starts to change, different parts of our body change. Why? To mirror this. Okay? Does that make sense, everyone? I know that sounds like something that is like so out there, but it's the truth, guys. It's absolutely the truth. And so when we think about, we think about positivity, we think about our lives, we think about what all this means, then it's like, how do we go somewhere? How do we make that choice in life? How do we do that? And I think it happens because something we're doing changes. Something we are doing changes. And this is not something, guys, that happens overnight. I want to be very, very clear about this. It happens gradually. Now, I know that sounds very like hard to believe, right? But it's truth. So when you think about something, maybe it's not the way you want it to be, right? It's possible. And if something's not the way you want it to be, do you just give up right away? I hope you don't. But if you do, then maybe it's about why something is a certain way. Does that make sense? And when we ask the question of why, right? When we ask the question of why, it's like our life suddenly changes so much. And it changes so much for one reason, because our perception now, ladies and gentlemen, has changed. Our perception has changed. And so, one of the things I want to share with you is knowing that you can make these changes in your life every single day. So, I once mentored a young gentleman who had every reason to distrust new opportunities. He had been promised mentorships and he was left hanging so many times. When I invited him to join a leadership workshop I was running, he flat out said, "What's the point? These things never go anywhere." At first, I wanted to tell him how different this one would be, but instead I asked, "What's happened in the past that made you feel that way?" He opened up about an experience that he had where people had ghosted him several times after promising him support. His resistance wasn't to me, it was to the wounds of being let down. And that can hurt, regardless of what age or when that happened. And I just listened. That conversation didn't end with him saying yes, but it did end with mutual respect. And 2 months later, he reached out again, ready to try. Skepticism often masks pain. Until you see the person behind the resistance, you won't get anywhere. He reached out to me and he says, "If the opportunity is still open, could I attend one of your workshops?" Pretty good. Number two, building trust. Years ago, I had a team member who wouldn't speak up in meetings, no matter how much I invited participation. They stayed quiet. I later discovered they'd been mocked at a previous job for their ideas. And I realized I had to show, not just say it, that their voice mattered to me. So I started small, following up one-on-one acknowledgments, their insights in front of others, and honoring their contributions even when they were subtle. Over time, they began to share in meetings, even lead one of our initiatives. Trust wasn't built by grand gestures, but by dozens of small, quiet ones. When someone knows they're safe with you, they start to risk believing again. Encouraging doubt. And I think this is one that is hard for a lot of people. During a community workshop that I was doing, one person felt totally lost. He was at the workshop and I invited him to share. And at first he didn't, because again, he was always being mocked. And I think that's a hard thing for some people to realize, that sometimes you get mocked not because the person wants to mock you, that you get mocked because of some insecurity that they might have in their own lives. And again, it's important, ladies and gentlemen, not to judge. It's really important not to judge, because if you don't judge, you show them that, look, I'm not better than you, but I'm here. I'm a friend. I want to help. And I think that's a hard thing for people. They don't realize what that means, right? Um, and maybe what you're doing is something that seems interesting, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because of your attitude. Okay. It's because of your attitude. That's a tough pill for people to swallow, right? If we could change, right, who we are for a moment, then that means we're going to show up more for ourselves in life. I think that's important. And if you don't get that, then maybe what you might need to do is some reflecting. Maybe, right? But I'm going to tell you that this stuff that I'm talking about doesn't just happen like overnight. You have to embrace who you are as a person. As a person. That's a lot for people to swallow. Realizing that your aspirations, your desires are all within your reach. All within your reach. That's something that a lot of people don't get. So encourage people to dialogue. Encourage people to communicate. Encourage people to be who they are. Right? We talked about no discrimination, race, religion, orientation, color, creed, political party. A lot of times people say it, but they don't mean it. Like they say it because they want to appear big and impress the board. But when that opportunity comes to actually rear its head and you have an opportunity to demonstrate the mentorship of it, do you know what happens? It's like you become this Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. On the board, you're one way. Outside the board, it's like, oh, I never said that. I never agreed to that. Why do people do this? Fear. False evidence appearing real. People think that if they can, kick something under the bus or under the bed, that it'll be like it never happened. But you know what happened, and you're basically playing games with yourself. You're playing games with yourself, and you know what you're doing, ladies and gentlemen? You are hurting yourself. I mean, you're hurting yourself really, really badly. I mean, not just lightly, but really, really badly. I think that's hard for some people to understand. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It's always a privilege, pleasure to be with you guys in these amazing mornings, afternoons, and evenings. Please do check out Believe. Well, you know the site, believemeachieve.com, for more of my amazing, inspiring creations. By the way, you can do that 24 hours a day. There is short form content. There's long form content. There's articles that are posted. Do it from your iPhone, your smart device, or your computer. You can do it while you're jogging, while you're exercising. All right. So check out believemeachieve.com for more of my great, inspiring creations. And I'll see you guys on another show real soon. Have a great one, everyone.